Tadparam paryaya vidmahe jnanalingeshwaraya dhimahi tanno guruh prachodayate om. Om Yoga Maharshi Dr. Swami Geetananda Giri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Namaste, Swagatam, Vanakkam. We are on to our Scintillating Saturdays, and by the next week we'll be hitting our silver jubilee of these, the 25th week. We are doing this non-stop, and it's manifesting because of each and every one of you who logs on, giving me spiritual company, satsanga, through your presence. The best present we can give anyone is our presence. Being in the present moment, mindfully, heartfully, soulfully. We are in the moment together. And when mindfully, heartfully, and soulfully we connect with each other, that is the highest universal connection that can exist between any two beings. As a human being, every moment is a challenge. Every moment is a challenge because we are constantly seeking balance. Elusive balance. People think that they are seeking happiness. People think they are seeking health. People think they are seeking so many things. But in fact, we are seeking balance. Because that state of balance is a state of ease. Where lies the balance? Within us. Who is responsible for the balance? No one but our own self. How can we contribute to that balance? By just being ourselves, attuning to our inner nature. As long as we try to be somebody else, we will be off balance always. And to have that inner balance, one needs to go in. Because the solution lies within us. The great Tamil literature, classic, the Purananu, 400 verses on the external world, and then you have the Agananu on the internal world. Classic Tamil literature. And in that, the poet tells us, Thidum Nandrum Pirar Tarabara. Thidu means all the negativities, the bad things. Nandru refers to all the good things. So all the bad and all the good that occur in our life, that manifest in our life, he says they don't come from somebody else. They don't come from somebody else. They come from our own self. Both the negativities and the positivities lie within us. Thidum nandrum pirar taravara. It's not from outside. It's from inside. As a medical doctor, I always say, every cell in our body has anions and cations, sodium, potassium, chloride. And they are constantly trying to seek balance. And so, if sodium comes in, potassium goes out. That is how you manage hypertension. You want to reduce the sodium and enhance the potassium. So take fruits. Reduce the salt in your diet. And the more the fruit you take, which is rich in potassium, the potassium comes in and the sodium has to go out. Because balance has to be maintained. Your anions and cations are constantly seeking balance. Right down at the subatomic level, electrons, protons, neutrons, they are seeking balance. There's a constant effort being made right down at the subatomic and the subcellular and cellular level, where constant efforts are being made to find that balance. And that balance physiologically is called homeostasis. When it comes into the mental state of balance, samatvam, samabhava, the equal attitude, samabhava. And the word bhava comes from an attitude of being. You be. And as a friend of mine told me the other day, your name itself is Bhavanani, so there's bhava in your name, so you are more being. I like that. It's a beautiful compliment when someone can say you are in the being rather than the doing. The doing pulls you away from yourself. The being pulls you towards yourself. In that state of balance, samatvam, samabhava, and when you are established with stability in that state of balanced ease, it is from a very wise place. And Lord Krishna, Yogeshwara Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, a yoga shastra, tells us that this is the state of sthita prajna. Sthita, stable. You are established so well, nothing can shake you. You are your own rock. You are your own anchor. You are your own support system. Because you are established in yourself. And how does this happen? Through prajna, the highest transcendental wisdom. This is the wisdom that manifests when you stop identifying with the small you and grow in your perspective so that the higher universal perspective is your perspective. You and the universe have the same perspective, and at that point, in that state of balance, you are established in a steady state. Now people say, okay, we get there and then we live happily ever after. Well, that happily ever after is only in fairy tales. Because once you gain that balance, that samatvam, that samabhava, that sthita prajna, now starts the next level of challenge in the video game called life. Life is a video game. The next level is you have to maintain that. So first is you have to attain it, then you have to maintain it, and you will constantly be in the danger of losing it, and then you have to regain it. So, to sustain it, maintain it, regain it, attain it, all of these take great self-effort. That is the Purushartha, the self-effort we as a Purusha, as an embodied being, that we make as part of our dharma, our responsibility. Every practice in yoga aims to enhance the state of balance, be it the left and right nostril, sometimes you see people, recently I came to know of an academic publication where someone put together left nostril breathing and alternate nostril breathing and is now trying to call it by his own name. Take traditional techniques that have been around for thousands of years, combine A plus B and say now it is your pranayama, so-and-so's pranayama. Yeah, lift the right leg, then you lift the right and the left, and now I have Dr. Ananda's new technique. For God's sake. How stupid can we become in our attempt to gain recognition? Right and left nostrils, trying to find balance. Right and left arms, trying to find balance. Right and left leg, trying to find balance. Bending forward, bending back, trying to find balance. Twisting to the right, twisting to the left, trying to find balance. And this is why the Brahma Mudra, where we turn to the right and then come back to the balance, turn to the left, come back to the balance, go up, come back to balance, go down and come back to balance. Every moment that you go away from your state of balance, you are going away from it, but then you are coming back to it. You are going away from your perspective, expanding it, but then coming and becoming established in your own perspective that now encompasses other perspectives too. And the moment your perspective encompasses other perspectives, you are going to be more balanced than you were before that. And then we add the sound, because nada, vibration, is the rhythm of life itself. The rhythm of the universe and the rhythm of our heart. The other day I was teaching a special session on cardiovascular physiology, and the physiology and the metaphysiology, the physics and the metaphysics of the cardiovascular physiology. I like that, physiology and metaphysiology. That sounds good. Psychology, metapsychology. And you know, the heart is constantly reminding you of this vibration. Because the heart center is connected to the universe, anahata. And just as the universe is going through the shpanda nishpanda, the contraction and the relaxation, the inhalation and exhalation, your heart is going through systole and diastole. And the systole and diastole is kept going by the Guru within our heart. Guru Hridaya Manas, the sino-atrial node, SA node, your natural pacemaker. Not the artificial one that we doctors put into you when your pacemaker is not working. The natural pacemaker of the heart, sino-atrial node. And what does it do? Labdub, 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 labdub. Let's make it a bit musical. Labdub, 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 labdub. And what it is saying? Love you, 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 love you. Love you, you are love. Anbe Shivam, as Tirumula tells us. The divine is love. You are love. Not in the chemical hormonal sense, where people mistake lust to be love, confusing the pelvis and the heart. This is something which transcends it. It is the pure love. The pure love that is the catalyst of relationships. Pure love is the catalyst of true relationships, where balance manifests. Love for the sake of loving, not for what you will get. As I always say, yoga should be done for the sake of yoga, not for something else. And when you do yoga for the sake of yoga itself, everything that manifests will be an Atma Prasadanam. It will be a manifestation of Ishvara Pranidhana. This morning before I came up here, I had a talk with Amma. And Ammaji, we reminded ourselves that all we can do is do our best. Do our best and leave the rest. Love is do your best. Do is leave the rest. Do your best, 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 leave the rest. And your heart is reminding you with each beat. That balance. And because if you're only doing your best and not leaving it, it's going to be imbalanced. And if you're leaving it without doing anything, again it's going to be imbalanced. That is why the Spanda Nishpanda, the contraction and the relaxation, the activation and the deactivation, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems, sympathovagal balance is what health is all about. A balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic manifesting through the vagus. Sympathovagal balance, SVB, is what it's all about. Physiologically, sympathovagal balance. The balance between the ha and the ta, ha-ta. The balance between the loma and the viloma. The balance between the spanda and the nishpanda. The balance between the in and the out. The balance between the day and the night. The balance between the masculine and the feminine. The balance between the positive and negative ions. The balance between day and night. The balance between you and me. In that state of balance, you and me disappear and only us remains. The I and you disappears and the we remains. What a beautiful moment where that balance manifests at the multidimensional level. And one way to attain this balance is to go into deep contemplation. People like to use the word meditation, and I'm trying to restrain gangster yogi today and be Dr. Bliss rather than gangster yogi. Susie and Josh, they decided I'm to be called Dr. Bliss. And it was very funny when I heard that. I said, that's nice. And I thanked Josh for that new epithet, Dr. Bliss. But I said, you know what? Swamiji and Ammaji had a small pet before I was born. They had a beautiful pet. It was a small little monkey. Not really a monkey, it was a lemur. You know those lemurs? They're a type of monkey with big eyes. And they eat flies. Big eyes and eat flies. And this lemur, they had, I don't know where they got it. Ammaji used to have it. There's an old yoga life with Ammaji holding this guy up. This is before I was born. Maybe it was my previous incarnation. And they used to call him Mr. Bliss. So that little lemur that Amma used to carry around in her pocket and went with them everywhere Swamiji and Ammaji traveled in those days, the pre-Ananda days, they had Mr. Bliss with them. And one day Mr. Bliss disappeared, that's all, never came back. But Ammaji used to say about Mr. Bliss liking to eat flies and leave all the wings on the bed. So that she didn't like about him too much. He was not so blissful when he did that. He was more Mr. Revoltful than blissful. I'm trying to manifest Dr. Bliss and not Gangsta Yogi today. But we have a tendency to talk about the word meditation as if it's something you do. Meditation is not something you do. Meditation is a state of being. What you do is concentration. You can contemplate. That is why in this tradition we tend to use the word contemplative practices. Because you are taking your mind in. You are taking your mind in contemplative, introspective practices. Yes, you can do them. you can, by the power of choice, the superpower of being human, you can start to contemplate, you can start to introspect, you can start to self-reflect, swadhyaya. Yes, you can do all of this. But you cannot do meditation. Meditation, dhyanam, has to manifest on its own. And when you are ready, it manifests. Because it is a state where you have lost this limited self-identity of me. So contemplative practices, they awaken and they utilize, they exercise the power of choice, the power of viveka, discernment, the power of ichcha shakti, the power of intent, the power of jnana shakti, the power of wisdom, and the power of kriya shakti, the power of action. And when we want to work on this area, one of the best ways is dharmika asana. Dharmika, that which is enabling our dharma to manifest through dharana. Dharana is concentration, contemplation, introspection. And through that, you are manifesting your own dharma. And how we do this is that we come into the Vajrasana, and from the Vajrasana, we bend forward until the forehead is touching the ground. Now when you do this, Dharmikasana, you have brought your head down. Your head is now down. Your head is touching the ground. You are grounding this part of you that is so ungrounded and disconnected from reality most of the time. So in Dharmikasana, you are bringing your head down. You bring your nose in between the knees. You take your hands and you clasp your heels so that the palm and the sole are in connection. One of the few practices where the upper limb, the palm, and the lower limb, the sole, are in close approximation. And when you do that, you are creating a closed circuit of energy in the Dharmikasana. You are creating a closed circuit of energy and you are becoming a ball. You are becoming a ball of closed-circuited energy. And because when you bend forward, you are compressing this abdominal region, the Nabhi area, the navel center. This is working on the Manipura chakra. The Manipura, which is our psychic umbilical cord. So when you bend forward into the Dharmikasana and you create this closed circuit of energy, you are creating a closed circuit of energy, becoming a ball of energy, and you are letting that energy center into the Manipura, which is your psychic umbilical cord, and thus you as an individual are connecting to the universal at that moment. And in that moment of contemplation, concentration, and connection, your dharma, your responsibility, your path, the path for which you have incarnated in this lifetime, it starts to open up for you. And this is why all traditional cultures, every traditional culture, when people went to a spiritual place or a religious place, they would bend down and the head would come to the ground. This was part and parcel of all traditional worship practices, reverential practices. And when the head is brought down, your head comes below the heart, and your big, fat, bloated, dense ego starts to have a bit of humility manifest in it. Because suddenly, this head, which is always above the heart, suddenly comes below the heart. And at that point, the meaning and the feeling, they come together. Bhavaya Bhakti Praveshita Lingam. At that moment, the Bhava and the Bhakti come together. And as Maharishi Patanjali reminds us, when you chant the Om, the Pranava as a japa, he says it should be chanted, Tad Japaha. The repetition of the Omkar, the Pranava should be done, Tad Japaha Tadartha Bhavanam, with Artha, which means meaning, and Bhavana, which means feeling. The meaning and the feeling, the cognitive process and the emotive process should go together. And in Dharmikasana, you bring your head below the heart, and suddenly the energy flow has changed, either from top down. Now this has become top, this has become down. And you know, whenever you want balance to occur, if one thing is always up like this, you never get balance. Okay? The scales when they balance, this is never balance. What has to happen? This has to go up. Then this has to go, this has to go, this has to go, this has to go, this has to go. And after that, you come to balance. Okay? So, head above heart is what's always happening for us. Now, what are we doing? Head below heart. Then you sit up, head above heart. Next time you do Dharmikasana, head below heart. And the more you do this as part of your daily practice, the more the head comes below the heart. You have created a beautiful sense of harmonious balance. That equilibrium, the homeostasis, the golden mean, that samatvam, that sukhasthanam has started to manifest. And that is why the performance of Dharmikasana is such a beautiful way for us to go within. It is a posture in which deep introspection, self-inquiry can be done. Self-inquiry is called Atma Vichara. Vichara is inquiry on an inner aspect, and Atma of yourself. You are having a self-inquiry. Instead of asking what's happening to the neighbors, what's happening in North America, what's happening down under, what is happening in Delhi, what is happening in the next town, what is happening to that person, you are asking yourself, who am I, where am I, what am I, how am I? All these questions you are starting to ask of yourself. Atma Vichara. And that is the key to finding that inner balance. And Dharmikasana facilitates it. Now in Dharmikasana, Swamiji, amazing what he brought together in these teachings. Swamiji and Swami Kanakananda and all the gurus of the Parampara. What great minds and hearts these people had. Because in Dharmikasana, you can then do certain contemplative practices. Antara Dharana. Antara is another word. It means inside. Antara. Bahya is external. Antara is internal. As in the Yoga Sutras, when Maharishi Patanjali talks about pranayama, Bahya, Abhyantara, you have the two types. Bahya, the external, Abhyantara, the internal, and then Stambha Vritti, the steady state that occurs. Antara Dharana. Dharana is concentration, contemplation, one-pointed focus. Dharana. Antara Dharana, an inner focus in Dharmikasana. So look at this, the magnificence of this combination. In Dharmikasana, you have become a ball of energy. You are giving a conscious focus at the Manipura, your psychic umbilical cord, connecting you to the universe. The individual and the cosmos have come together. Jivatma, Paramatma have made an effort to come together and become one as they have always been. We have always been one, but we have forgotten it. And so we are regaining that oneness. And in that moment where your head is down, humility has come in. The nose is in between the knees. You're keeping your nose out of other people's business and keeping it locked between your knees. Not poking your nose in other people's business, which we always do. You have brought that beautiful sense of focus. It is a fetal posture. Just as the baby inside the mother's womb. And you are connecting to the Divine Mother, the Universal Mother, by becoming part of that process in Dharmikasana. And then you choose your focus, Antara Dharana. And Swamiji gives us a few different techniques. Kshitijan Kriya. Kshitijan refers to the horizon and the morning sun coming up over the horizon. And in this process, add this Bindu Nadi. Because when you bring your nose in between the knees, the Bindu Nadi, which is this part, just at the hairline here, that Bindu Nadi will start to become a point of focus. And the Bindu Nadi lies at a point in between the two hemispheres, the cerebral hemispheres, the right and left brain. And what is happening at that point, you start to visualize a beautiful dark, velvety, early morning Brahma Muhurta horizon. And just enjoy that beautiful dark, velvety horizon. And then you have that beautiful sunrise, Suryodayam occurring. Udaya is rising, the sun, Surya rising, the rising of the sun, the solar energy, reminding us there's another day to be the best version of ourselves. Suryodayam. And this beautiful contemplation, Kshitijan Kriya, one of those contemplative practices. The second practice we can do, Ekavarna Kriya. Ekavarna Kriya is where you, at that point in the Bindu Nadi, what you do is you start to contemplate one single color, any color that you are attracted to. And as you contemplate that color, just merge into that color. There's a very beautiful, people would in modern times call it color meditation, and patent it and copyright it and sell it for a few more silver coins, like Judas selling his Christ master. That's what people do in modern times, the modern Judases. You know, Judases. You got it. That's what they do. You contemplate a single color. Eka is single. Varna is color. And in that one color, you start to merge as that color and you become one. A very beautiful contemplative practice that can be done. A third practice that you can do this is a Jyoti Dharana, where at this point you start to visualize and experience that inner luminosity, that Murdini Jyoti or Murda Jyoti that Maharishi Patanjali talks about in the Vibhudipada. Murda Jyotishi Siddha Darshanam. You become capable of experiencing a oneness with the great masters. Because you have become a great master yourself, so you are in the company of the great. Siddha Darshanam. Not that you are just watching them and taking their autograph. Murda Jyoti, that beautiful light within. Swamiji used to call it Murdini Jyoti. An inner effulgence, a luminosity that comes from within that Jyoti, you start to contemplate again in this practice. So Dharmik Asana, a contemplative practice where you have gone back to being in a womb, just as the baby feels safe, comforted and nourished by the mother in its womb. Similarly, we are feeling safe, we are feeling comforted, we are feeling loved, we are feeling connected and nourished by the universal mother when we are in Dharmik Asana. And when you feel safe, you can contemplate. And the Bindu Nadi becomes a point of focus where you can contemplate. And a very beautiful experience can manifest, an experience that can become a meditative state of being, a dharana. We have to be worthy of that state. So we have to make the effort. But then don't cling on to the effort, because the moment you attach to the effort, you will go by the experience and not even know you have had it. And that is why you have to make the effort and let go. You have to pull the bowstring back and let go for the arrow to leave the bow. And that is why abhyasa has to be coupled with vairagya or letting go. In abhyasa and vairagya, when they are coupled together, you attain that state of balance. I felt the need to share this today because last week I shared about grief. The earlier week I shared about fear. And I'm like, everybody will think Dr. Ananda only talks about these type of things. So I said, let's have a Pratipaksha Bhavanam session. thinking of the opposite side, being aware of the other perspective. And today was focused on balance. And that inner balance that we can attain, maintain, sustain, and retain and regain by our self-effort, by our purushartha. And the dharmikasana, with these amazing practices, we are fortunate to be the recipients of such teachings from the timeless teachers. Purveshamapi Guruhu Kalenana Vacheda. That is the timeless teachings. And the teachings are not stagnant. They are constantly evolving in a dynamic manner, without contradicting, without going against the principle that lies in the teachings, that is timeless, Sanatana. And that responsibility that comes from it is what we are taking on through our dharma, the swadharma of being human. I hope that this will help you. As I express it, it helps me find answers to questions that are in me. And again, as my father would say, the more you share, the more comes back. And every time I share with all of you, I start to get back so much more. Love you all for you being you and enabling me to be myself. Let us all grow and glow together in yoga. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Om Dhanyavadaha. Thank you. Nandri.